You are tuning in to a multi platform broadcast of Latino politics and news. We air on 90.1 FM KPFT, Houston's community station. You can also watch us on Fox 26 Houston. I'm Tony Diaz, El Librotraficante. Happy to join you here as well as on our other radio show, Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Have Their Say. Also enjoy joining you on What's Your Point on Fox 26 Houston. Today, we have an emergency broadcast because we have to convene to let people know that something is going down that can affect us profoundly. The main topic of today's special broadcast is Texas Republican Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick opposed to Mexican American studies. And this question is really important. And we're just introducing this, and we're going to keep coming back to this issue because of a press conference that Dan Patrick just held and some policies that he's pushing at the University of Texas at Austin. This involves tenure. We'll talk more about what that means. Tenure for professors at the university, getting rid of that. And also, Dan Patrick wants to go after professors who are teaching critical race theory. This is a specific field of study at the university level. So forget all this mumbo jumbo that the right wing has been playing with from the K through 12 level, because it doesn't exist there. It exists at the university level. And here's the main question. We need Dan Patrick to tell us if Mexican American studies, especially at the university level, if that is CRT in his opinion or not. We'll be talking to Liana Lopez. She's joining us right now. She is a co-founder of the Librotraficante caravan and movement. She's been a stalwart of Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Have Their Say, co-host and producer emeritus, and she's been involved in the community for many years on many sides. Brilliant photographer. Lilo, great to see you. Thank you for joining us to talk about this topic.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. I thought we did this 10 years ago.
Oh my goodness. You bring up a great issue. We're experts on this for many reasons. One, as part of Nuestra Palabra, we've been doing this sort of work going on 25 years. But you just mentioned the Librotraficante caravan. So let's remind folks that in 2012, right-wing Republicans in Arizona banned Mexican American studies and then enforced that ban by going in the classroom and in front of young students, boxing up books by our most beloved teachers and professors. Here in Houston, we heard students telling the world that this was happening. And we joined our brothers and sisters in Tucson to smuggle the books that were outlawed on that curriculum back into Arizona. And we became Librotraficantes. Lilo, what would you like people to remember about that specific event? Because it ties in perfectly. I think you just said it. It sounds like it's happening again. Different details, same tactics. Name one or two similarities that you're feeling back from 10 years ago to what might be happening right now.
Well, first I'll tell you what I remember. We won that case.
That's right.
In Arizona. Yeah, we won that case. We lost a whole, 4-year generation of students doing that, but we won that case. Tucson Unified School District is, does their MOS program is having to start all over. I'm not real sure, where it is at this point. We need to do another check-in. But in all actuality, that similarity in and of itself, it destroyed that program. It had to start over. And that's what are we going to do? Destroy the education system because they don't want to teach history properly? How do they decide what CRT is? Is it just a book? Is there a list? Because I remember the 90 plus book list that they said was not banned. And in fact, I have that picture. I'll share it with you if you want to share it. I'm going to send that. There are no banned books, and they literally had a box of books labeled banned. They were on TV. Oh, anyways, I'm going to stop.
No, you know what? I mean, you're bringing up a lot of really potent similarities from then. And again, I want to tell folks that we are introducing this topic. We're getting it out to our community because they need to know the extent of this attack on intellectual freedom and on our community. But we're experts at dealing with this. So we will share more details as this goes on. I want you to know that we are on this. We want to let people know and get their reactions. You mentioned a detail, though. It was the picture of the books that were being carted out of classrooms. You're right. Tucson Unified School District denied that they were banning books. That's very similar. You've got a lot of these folks that are suppressing intellectual freedom saying, we're not banning books. They're updating the suppression of books. But in the future, we're going to show you the pictures of those boxed up books from Tucson, Arizona. And there's a similar picture with some of these book bans being enforced today where they're carting books, and it's in the same setup where they've got them in all these cardboard boxes. So I'm glad you remembered that. We're going to share those pictures as we move on. But just to catch people up, we are convening today to let people know that Dan Patrick, who is the Republican Texas lieutenant governor, is attacking directly tenure for professors. Let's break down what that means. Tenure is a policy where, after going through many hoops, many tests, being vetted, certain professors then are said, well, we're not going to fire you. The university will invest in your career. And the idea then is it allows these professors to have intellectual freedom and not be attacked for what they're teaching. So Dan Patrick now, because it's a public institution, wants to eliminate that for the new folks that are being hired. Even more alarming, he wants to go after professors who are teaching critical race theory at the university level. Now, this is very alarming because critical race theory is taught at the graduate school level. It might be taught at the college level, depends. But these are real courses then. So now we have to wonder, who are those professors? Lila, we're chatting off the air, and you said maybe some people don't understand what tenure is. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I also don't want to get lost in the jargon from the university level so that people on the ground can hear what it means. What do you think are some basic questions that people might have about, well, what's the big deal? So what? I can get fired at work. Why shouldn't a professor get fired at work? And right now we're having a few technical difficulties with Lilo's sound. But let me add something else to this. This is important too, because the professors who are tenured at the University of Texas include professors of Mexican American history and Mexican American studies, like Dr. Angela Valenzuela, who is a genius, but her work has actually been used at the Arizona Supreme Court to overturn the ban of Mexican American studies in that state. And also Dr. Emilio Zamora, who is one of the progenitors of these studies, also one of the leaders in studies of Mexican American studies as well as Mexican American history. Here's an important question that Dan Patrick will have to answer. So we'll be getting in touch with his offices. Is Mexican American Studies CRT according to Dan Patrick? That's going to be a key question here. And I think Lilo's voice is back in. Lilo, I think I can hear your sound again. Are you back with us?
Yeah, you had a question about tenure. I think there's a couple of things that maybe I had, one of the things about tenure is I realized some professors have tenure, and that means like they're okay. They have a free ride and they're protected. But that's not always the case either. Like, one of the things about tenure that I find is amazing is, yeah, you're given a job. I have a friend, who's a professor that got tenure at a university that we all know, maybe love. And what I found amazing is, like, it's not enough to live off of. So, like, one, you're actually being given protection for teaching things that might be problematic to some power systems that have already been established here. So it's not surprising that these problems are coming up. I feel like, and I don't know if we said this off the air or on the air, I just feel like these witch hunts for critical race theory and the way it's being posturized in the media, it really reminds me of the 80s when porn was a big deal and had gone all the way to the Supreme Court because they wanted to find what porn was. And I think that's the question, right? What is CRT? Is it just a book? Are you going to extrapolate that to other things? Because, like, can you tell me what it is? And it reminds me of the Supreme Court judge that was made a laughing stock because they were trying to pin him down. Well, is this porn or is that not porn? And he's like, oh, well, I know porn when I see it. And, yeah, I think, I feel like that's the craziness we're going to get into. And I just feel like right now, anything that teaches history outside of what's been commonly taught up till now is a problem for folks. What do you say to a parent that, okay, yeah, you have a right over what your kid learns, but also you graduated, when? And we've learned since then. And, the teachers are the professionals, which is why they go to college, to learn how to teach things. So there's just so many questions.
Mm-hmm. And again, there's so many questions that's part of the approach, in that it's so nebulous, it can be anything. So they fit all these things in these boxes, which is one thing for kindergarten to 12th grade, because that complicates it further, because critical race theory is not really taught at those levels. It's different because now it's getting specific at the university level. And the other things I want to point out is that right at the same time as this bogus critical race theory approach was evolving, there was a House Bill 1504 led by State Representative Cristina Morales that was pushing for Mexican American history and African American history to be counted towards high school graduation requirements in school districts that wanted to teach it, which is very powerful. It was actually supported by Republicans and Democrats. And that bill made history because it's one of the first ethnic studies bills that passed the House of Representatives with Republican supporters, Republican co-signers, and Democratic co-signers. It made it to the Senate. It made it out of the Education Committee, and then it got stuck. Here's why this ties into this. That was a beautiful moment. You had Republicans and Democrats working together to support African American history and Mexican American history. However, then you had Republicans voting against it, and you had Dan Patrick, who did not allow the bill to get a vote on the Senate floor. I personally feel that it would have been supported by Republicans and Democrats. That's a great Texas. It's a fantastic Texas to imagine that there are people that can say, forget parties. No one party should be considered opposed to Mexican American studies or opposed to African American history. It should be supported by both, because all the research shows that this helps students succeed. However, now we have to decide. Dan Patrick blocked that bill from getting a vote on the Senate floor. I think it would have been supported by both parties. Now we gotta ask now at this stage, after Dan Patrick's statements, so did he choke out that bill because he's against Mexican American history and African American history? And now at the university level, does he consider African American history and Mexican American history CRT or not? That's really what's going to be on the table. I think those are some specific questions. I'm going to take a look at a couple comments right here. Um, and we have Jesse pointing out that Jesse's pointing out, I remember that bill, right? That's oh, Jessica, she is from Chicanx Psychology in Austin. Thank you for giving your thoughts here. You remember that bill? That bill would have been a great moment in Texas history because it would show that we all support across party lines the best education for our students. That was not to come. That was not to happen. I think this is a part then where Republicans have to let us know, are you for African American history, Mexican American history, or against it? And are you going to wrap it up in all the CRT stuff? Now, Lilo, any thoughts? Any thoughts on that? Because that was a great moment, and I'm tempted to think then because of that,
Oh,
not every Republican is against African American history or Mexican American history because some directly supported it. Now Dan Patrick is going to force everyone's hand to pick if they're for or against it.
well, my first thought was, if they can say what they want, do you really believe them? Like, I'm like, I feel like they can force people to. I mean, I don't know if that's a bad thing to force people to say whether they're for it or not. I feel like I feel like it's just a distraction, honestly. And I feel like, we did this in Arizona 10 years ago, and like we're doing this again. And I realize how many times the folks, our elders in the civil rights movement that got beat in front of people's houses, by the police, how many times they had to see this over and over again. Yeah, I'm going to stop there.
That's deep. New details, same oppression. I got to give a shout out to more of our crew. We're getting a comment from Rodrigo Bravo. He is actually our producer, our audio producer for the radio version. He does a great job. So thank you, Rodrigo Bravo, for using your genius to get our sound together for our FM broadcast. And he wanted to say exactly, have them state their positions for people to see. That sounds fair. Let's find out where you stand. And Dan Patrick is pushing that. And let's report where people voted on House Bill 1504. And Dan Patrick, if you represent the Republican Party, are you saying that the Republican Party has your view? And exactly where does critical race theory stand in that? Hey, also, we want to thank Roxana Guzman, who is our multi-platform producer for these shows. And Lilo, you are producer emeritus because you helped us start the show. So it's
I haven't produced anything for a while. Then you can call me that later. You guys have been doing a really good job. I love Rodrigo and Roxana. What is it? Rodrigo and Roxana? I'm going to have to find that band. Y'all should have that as a theme music.
I love it. That is so cool. You know what? The nice thing is that we are convening through the magic of new platforms and technology, but that's what our Gente does. We roll with the punches, we evolve. We started in the party hall of Chapultepec restaurant, and here we are on all these different platforms. But Lilo, you mentioned it. This is the 10-year anniversary of the Librotraficante Caravan. We haven't made too many announcements, so this is the first announcement we're going to make. Come March, we're going to kick off a full year of celebrating the work of the Librotraficante Caravan. But guess what? It's just in time to deal with this mess again. So they've changed the details. It's the same oppression, but we're experts at this. And like Lilo said, we schooled the oppressors last time. We're ready to do that again. So folks, if you're a Librotraficante from the past, get your sunglasses together, get your banned books together. We're coming with the bus. We're coming with the banned books. We're going to be visiting all of our old Librotraficante underground libraries. Lilo, what'd you say? You said that the gente before us, the activists before us, they had to revisit these things. I remember during the caravan, African American civil rights leaders were saying, we're opening underground libraries again.
It's so true. I mean, it's, but it has to keep repeating itself because the attacks will keep coming. We've seen that. They'll find another way with one little loophole that you have to go through a whole other 10 years of fighting again. So it's good, you know, in a way. It keeps we're moving forward. We're moving forward. It's, you know, disheartening to see a lot of disgusting things happening, which is, that's all I can say, you know. But and so, like, it's really actually really good. We have to keep coming back to this, because if not, how are we going to teach? How are others going to see it? And we can't be negative with the folks that are coming in, because their experience could be completely different. They're ready to go just like we were, and we have the experience, and we need to let people lead. And that's what happened with the Librotraficante. It wasn't us, it was the students. We just wanted to bring them books.
I love it. On that note, another first announcement. I do want to mention that I finished a book. It's coming out in August of this year, and it's called The Tip of the Pyramid: Cultivating Community Cultural Capital. And Roxana is going to bring up the cover here. That's the cover. So we haven't talked about it yet, just showing it. I'm bringing it up today because in that book, I talk about the Librotraficante caravan. I talk about Nuestra Palabra. But Lilo, you put your finger on it. It's about community cultural capital. Even when I began writing it, I was trying to avoid just chronicling what happened in the past, because it's clear that these attacks happen again and again. How far back? This is actually a book that I started writing during the 500th year after the Spanish pirates invaded the land of the Mexica, and the Mexica government handed over governance of its government and people to the Spanish pirates. That was 500 years ago. And what they did is they burned the libraries and they burned the books. That happened in the past. Our legacy was burned. The books were burned. What's happening 10 years ago? Right-wing Republicans in Arizona banned Mexican American studies. Like Lilo mentioned, let's point something out. And I point this out too in the book. The heroes were the students of Tucson, the professors who came up with the curriculum, the people of Tucson who showed us how to be brave facing that sort of discrimination head on. All of us united, communities from the ground up, united across the Southwest, across the nation, to bring their energies together to overturn that racist law, and it was overturned. But we learned so much from it and from each other, and we're all connected still, so that now we can apply those same energies to this next era, because there are so many similarities. But one big thing is the goal is to get the hands out of our the goal is to get books out of the hands of our youth. The goal is to erase our history. The last thing I'm saying, I'm going to throw it back to Lilo to get her insights. Think about this. The eraser of our history has been erased. If for the first time right now you're hearing that Mexican American studies was banned 10 years ago and you didn't hear about it, why not? How did you not hear about our history and culture being obscured, erased under our noses in our time? That also means you didn't hear about a community coming together, pushing back and overturning that. Lilo, I'm going to stop there too. What are your thoughts on this coming back again? And I think we are the experts. And when I say we, I mean the whole community.
Well, I'll say this because I wanted to chime in there. There's no like raise your hand feature here like in Zoom. But, you know, one of the things that I do want to say, yeah, what hooked me the most with the Librotraficante caravan, how that happened, was the kids, students, young adults. The students were the ones under 18 years old that went for 2 years every Tuesday to these school board meetings. One, how many parents did that before CRT was being injected into the conversation? Two, these kids are under 18 going
Mhm.
to school board meetings. It wasn't the teachers that organized that, it was the students. And so even now, like when I start talking about that, it still makes me cry because
Mm.
it's overwhelming to see people that are not really legally able to take part in our justice system, take part in our justice system and the civil part where we tell them be part of the community, speak up for yourself, and then so violently attacked on a mental level by having to fight for this for 2 years, and then after they did their shade, the government in that Tucson school district did their shady stuff um, during, between the Christmas and New Year's break. They waited for the kids to come back so they could take those books out in front of them.
Which is shameful. That's psychological warfare to subject
And
you.
yeah, how could you do that to these children that are trying to take part in our system? That is super vindictive. And it still
Mhm.
makes me cry thinking about it. And so the courage that those kids had,
And thank you for sharing your
students,
emotions, though, Liana, because one, you put a lot of heart and soul into forming the Librotraficante caravan and the movement and to Nuestra Palabra. But I think people might not understand the amount of pain, the trauma that our community goes through with things like that.
I
So thank you.
didn't until I saw it,
Mhm.
firsthand.
Mhm. And the other thing is right now with these bans going on, again, we're going to dedicate more shows, more time to talking about these bans, and to doing something about it. But right now, a lot of youth are standing up to those bans as well. And we'll bring their voices in. We'll talk to them. Um, let's talk a little bit about another thing too, because at the time, folks need to be reminded that the basis for the banning of Mexican American studies was very similar to some of the attacks right now, um, that are going on. So, for example, one of the lines in the law used to ban Mexican American studies in Arizona was that it prohibited courses that promoted the overthrow of the government, which is ridiculous. And here's how that tactic works: if you are someone that doesn't know anything about the Mexican American community and all you see are the portrayals on corporate entertainment, which means we're gangbangers, cartel members, etc. Well, when you hear that youth are being taught to overthrow the government, you're going to get scared. And if you walk up to anybody in a grocery store and say, "Hey, should students overthrow the government?" They're going to say no. So, so that was a salacious attack that's really meant to scare people and be divisive. That was not the case. And for example, in the curriculum were books like The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, which was just one of the big read books here in Houston. So many people have read the book and love it. And if you've read the book, you know that there's nothing in there about being violent or overthrowing the government. It's about the American dream, having hope. It's a beautiful work of art. So that wasn't an accurate portrayal. Let me show you something then too that is part of the portrayal of um, this notion of what CRT is or isn't that is scaring people. So here's a quote by Dan Patrick at a press conference. We didn't say you don't talk about race. We didn't say that you can't teach about slavery. We didn't say that you ignore our history. What we said is that you're not going to teach a theory. I'm not going to touch that because theories are in math. That's okay. You're not going to teach a theory that says you're going to judge you when you walk in a classroom by the color of your skin. Um, okay, of course not. I'm against that too. And I don't know any professor that teaches a theory that judges people when you walk in the classroom by the color of your skin. And in fact, if I saw a professor doing that, I would tell them not to do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't do that. That's not teaching. I don't know what that is. So Dan Patrick, you don't know anything about teaching, or you were traumatized by that teacher. Nobody does that. And in fact, there's policies and laws to prevent that already. So I'd like to know who did that, and we can correct that person from doing it. That's not how you teach. Secondly, um, he wants to get rid of some theory that he thinks says that if you're white, you were born a racist, and that's normal, not an aberration, and you're an oppressor. And if you're a person of color, you're a victim. It's fascinating that he is using the word person of color. So all of a sudden, he's trying to adopt progressive terms, which he doesn't understand the meaning of. And I shouldn't laugh because the rest of the statement, there is no theory. I've never heard of this theory. Again, I am a practitioner of Mexican American studies. I have advanced degrees. I am a progenitor of Mexican American literature. I write books that are studied. I am in books that are studied. This is actually a book. This is an example of critical race theory. This is critical race theory. This is not imaginary discussions of it. This is the book. It says critical race theory, and you've got Richard Delgado and Jean Stefanik. Richard Delgado has written about the Librotraficantes in his books on critical race theory. I can promise you, having read the works, nowhere does it say if you're white, you're born a racist, and that's normal. That's not an aberration. I have never seen that in a book of critical race theory by Dr. Delgado. Does not exist. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to throw it to Lilo in a second. Here's my point. That statement by an elected official sounds exactly like the statements by the right-wing Arizona Republicans who banned Mexican American studies when they said that Mexican American studies promoted the overthrow of the government. Okay? It does not. That does not happen. Now, at the university level, you can't bully professors the way you're bullying kindergarten parents and kindergarten kids. So he's going to have to show exactly what that means. He has said in some of these statements that he is going to explain what that means. So we'll be looking forward to some of that. I'm going to stop there. Lilo, what are your thoughts on Dan Patrick's scare tactic there?
Are you scared? I think a problem is people get too bored to pay attention to it's. Even when you were explaining just now, it's like it's hard to get people to understand understand what's going on first, exactly what's how they've broken it down to make these incredibly minute details problematic to tell a story. But the other thing is too, me and you and Brian and all the other Librotraficantes that made it to the Arizona trial sat there every day in that trial and could not say a thing. You think it's hard to get this there. It's hard to sit through that. And it took a lot of time. It's really hard when people are trying to make a living, forced to make a living, have to provide for their family. I kind of lucky you haven't had me on the shows for a little while. It's hard for me to keep all of my topics singular because they're just so all intertwined. They really are. And I've sent you guys some pictures of banned books, teachers, the students, and I'm really looking for, if I send you a YouTube link later, can you share that with your audience? Because it's the under 18-year-old students taking over the Tucson Unified School District when they were dismantling the MOS program. And this is really, really, really what got me hooked. This video was it. So I'll share that. I'll share that in the chat.
And of course, we're throwing that to our producer, Roxana Guzman. And just another shout out. Hey, you are experiencing a multi-platform broadcast of Latino politics and news. You can catch us on social media. You can also hear our radio show on 90.1 FM KPFT, community station of Houston. And you can also watch our content on fox26houston.com. I'm Tony Diaz, the Librotraficante. Happy to host right now. And we have back in the studio with us Liana Lopez, one of the co-founders of Librotraficante Caravan and a champion of Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say. And we got the new generation of team. Rodrigo Bravo has been giving comments. He's producing on the audio side, and Roxana, she's going to collect some of what you showed. If we don't get to share that today, like I mentioned, today is a special broadcast to catch people up to speed on where we're at with the movement, let you know what is brewing. But we're going to be helping people understand this throughout the year. And as we mentioned, the timing is perfect because we have the 10-year celebration of the Librotraficante Caravan that we mentioned. We're experts at this. We see the patterns, and we won before. We're going to win again. There are some differences, though, Lilo. There are a couple differences, and some of them were. And one thing I do explain in the book, Tip of the Pyramid: Cultivating Community Cultural Capital. One tactic that we were employing at that time, back during the banning of Mexican American studies by Arizona officials, was to contain that to one state. And that was important so that it'd be the concentration of effort would be in the lawsuit in Arizona. There were moments, including actions by Dan Patrick and other Republicans, where it was clear that Republicans in Texas were testing some of the actions of the right-wing Republicans from Arizona and using it. I document that in the book. We'll talk about it in other shows. But the main point is that there were certain people in Texas ready to copy what Arizona was doing. We were able to catch these details because we were studying all aspects of it. This is different now because this so-called anti-CRT campaign is in several states. So that means we have to answer that movement with our movement. And we're great at creating a movement. The movement is spreading right now. We don't want people to get discouraged. Once you know that planning is happening, feel free to get in touch with us. We want to unite. But at the end of the day, let's get something clear. This is about everybody sharing their voice. Dan Patrick says we want to make white people feel bad or that they're oppressors. That is not the case. I'm a writer. I'll personally let you know. I want everybody to tell their story. We demand that everybody have a chance to tell their story. We just want to let you know that our stories have been attacked. And right now, it's Dan Patrick who seems to be attacking it. And I want to get to the bottom of this. So, he can say that some people are doing imaginary things. I'm here to find out if Dan Patrick is going after Mexican American studies. And if he's going after Mexican American studies, that means he's also going after African American studies. So this is pretty clear. Dan Patrick, are you attacking Mexican American studies, and do you consider Mexican American studies and African American studies CRT? Because that has to be clarified, especially when you're making policies that can cost professors their jobs. And here's the worst thing, Lilo. Here's the worst thing. They're going to water down education in Texas. They're going to make Texas the laughing stock of a global society. This is supposed to be the country with the best education on the planet. He's about to flush it all down the toilet. I'm going to stop, Lilo.
Good, because I'm about to point out where do we fall in the education list of the states?
Oh, no.
I mean, does he care? I hear you. People do need to start caring. I'm not telling you to not to vote. You have to do it. Just do the shenanigans if you can. Some people can't. And I'm applauding the folks that take the time to do this. And we need to make sure that we support the folks that are making the effort. There are folks out there. I see a lot of folks out there trying to do things. So I feel like what you see on the day-to-day basis on your screens that are there now are the sob stories for clicks. And you know what? We are not a sacrifice zone. We live here. We've been here. We're going to continue to live here. And, okay, cry about what's happening, but somebody has to do something. And I tell you what, I'm not running for office. So I will, find someone that I feel like could be that person and support them, because those are the folks that are my friends, that people I know. And it is the only way that I will be involved in politics. Because when our friends make mistakes, we know that they didn't, we know what's going on. It's not a spin on what the media is doing. We don't necessarily have to hear them say, oh, this is not what I meant to happen or whatever, because they're going to go after our politicians. Look at Ben Reyes, look at Betty Maldonado. They're coming. And we have to have a strategy for that, to negate them. And that's, I think, my problem with politics is, I can't do this over and over again, but I want to support the people that are enthusiastic about still wanting to do that fight. I have other fights that I'm taking on. Somebody has to do it, and I'm willing to support that in a good way like that.
And you're expert at creating movements. So the movement is about to kick it up a gear, kick it up a notch. It's just in time, and we're going to start winding it down for this special broadcast, but I will add this then. What's clear to me is that this is not a new attack, but because of what the work we did as a community back 10 years ago, we know some of the details, we spot them. And it seems to me that the folks that are plotting against the success of our education are plotting at 10-year clips. And I'll close with this, and I'll give Lilo the last word. I'll close with this. Ladies and gentlemen, I think some folks in our community, some folks in the Latino community, they may hear this and think, you know what, I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to get involved right now. This is, hurtful against the community, but, I need to keep working hard. I'm going to keep my head down, and, I will support people from behind the scenes. In the past, people did that because each generation could succeed because that generation that I'm describing right now worked hard. We're famous for working hard. We're famous for breaking our backs. My dad broke his back, but he always told me, I'm breaking my back so you won't have to. I'm breaking my back so you can work in an office. I'm breaking my back so you will go to school. Here's the problem. When we see elected officials banning our history and culture, sabotaging education, the one way our community can advance is through education. Now you have elected officials who are taking over states and imploding the education system. I want our community to understand that what seems to be at stake is that the next generation can no longer be expected to succeed and do better than the generation before them. And right now is the moment we have to stand up and speak up to demand that we have access to education, intellectual freedom, so that our youth can progress and prosper. This is no indoctrination. We want them to grow up and be free thinkers, whatever political party they may choose to be from. But if there's a political party against us, I want to know which one it is right now. Hey, that's it for today. I want to give Lilo the last word. Lilo, fire us up and get us out of here.
Yeah, I just, thinking about our education and what's, I'm ready for that fight. I think the folks that are getting affected now are actually coming out are the youth in this era that I see. They're amazing. Like for me, they get out there, they want to do things. And, every generation before us is going to say, oh, you're lazy. Yeah, well, you wanted this life for me, right? it was really hard to explain to my folks what I did when I didn't show up in an office every day. And one of the things that really struck me is you were saying, as long as I worked in an office, and honestly, I'm kind of at that point where, why would anybody have a dream job? Why would it be anybody's dream to work for someone when we can do it all locally and by ourselves? And it's really hard to say that in an hour-long show, it's just, who's got time to listen to that?
I love it. Hey, thanks for joining us, Liana. You have been experiencing a special, this is a crisis edition of Latino Politics and News, a multi-platform broadcast on social media. You're listening to it on 90.1 FM KPFT, Houston's community station, and you're watching it on fox26houston.com. I'm Tony Diaz, Librotraficante. I want to thank Roxana Guzman for producing our multi-platform shows, Rodrigo Bravo for his brilliant sound engineer gifts on our audio broadcasts, and Rodimus Ortiz for helping us with our search engine optimization, Mark Anthony Piñon for his graphics, and all of you, dear listeners, and to all the Librotraficantes in Houston, Texas, in the Southwest, and across the country, thank you for supporting our history and culture. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.